Imagine your own funeral. Not someday. Today. The room is full. People are speaking about your life. What are they saying? Are they talking about the promotions you almost got? The business you almost started? The book you almost wrote? The person you almost became? Or are they talking about someone who actually did something? Someone who invested in themselves so relentlessly that they became undeniable. Someone who refused to die with their potential still inside them. You get to write that eulogy, starting now, starting with the next 2 hours of your life. The question is whether you will. Here is what separates the eulogies worth hearing from the ones filled with polite lies and empty praise. Investment, not in stocks, not in real estate, not in crypto or startups or any asset that exists outside of you. Investment in yourself. Warren Buffett was asked about his single greatest investment. His answer was not Coca-Cola. It was not Apple. It was not Berkshire Hathaway. He pointed to a $100 public speaking course he took at age 21. He said that investment multiplied his earning potential by at least 50% for the rest of his life. Do the math on 50% of billions. From $100 and a decision to grow. That is the return nobody talks about. The return on you. Markets crash. They always have. They always will. Real estate collapses. Businesses fail. Relationships end. Currencies lose value. Every external investment carries risk you cannot control. But there is one investment that has never failed in the entire history of human civilization. One asset that appreciates every single day you pour into it. One thing that no economic collapse, no recession, no pandemic, no government, no competitor can ever take from you. Your mind, your skills, your character, your ability to create value in any environment, under any circumstances, against any odds. That is what legends invest in. That is what this audiobook will teach you to build. Welcome to the most important decision of your life. Not because I say so, because in the next 18 minutes, you will understand something that separates legends from the forgotten. The ones who built empires from the ones who built excuses. The names etched in history from the names erased by time. This is not another motivational speech. This is a manifesto, a declaration of war against mediocrity. And if you are still listening, you have already proven something about yourself that 97% of people never will. You chose to invest these minutes in yourself. Let me ask you something uncomfortable. Look at your life right now. Not the filtered version you show the world. The real version. The one at 3 in the morning when you cannot sleep. Are you where you thought you would be? Are you who you thought you would become? Stanford University conducted a fascinating study. They followed over 15,000 professionals across 2 decades. The question was simple. What separates those who achieve extraordinary success from those who settle into ordinary existence? The results destroyed every assumption about talent, luck, and circumstance. The single greatest predictor of exceptional achievement was not intelligence. It was not connections. It was not even hard work in the traditional sense. It was the consistent, deliberate investment in personal growth. The legends in that study spent an average of 5 hours per week specifically dedicated to upgrading their skills, expanding their knowledge, and developing their mindset. 5 hours. That is less than 45 minutes per day. Less time than most people spend scrolling through social media. Less time than watching a single movie. But here is what separates this truth from empty motivation. Those 5 hours were not random. They were strategic. They were intentional. They were compounding. And that word, compounding, will change everything you understand about success. Think about compound interest for a moment. If you invested $1 today and it grew by just 1% every single day, in 1 year that dollar would not be worth $3 or even $10. It would be worth $37.78. That same principle applies to you. Every skill you develop, every piece of knowledge you acquire, every mindset shift you embrace does not just add to who you are. It multiplies. The average person consumes information. The legend applies it. The average person watches motivational videos. The legend becomes the motivation. The average person dreams about the future. The legend builds it with their bare hands, one day at a time, one skill at a time, one investment in themselves at a time. Now let me tell you about something most people get dangerously wrong. They think investing in yourself means buying courses you never finish. downloading apps you never open, starting journals you abandoned by February. That is not investment. That is consumption disguised as progress. That is action faking. The comfortable illusion that you are moving forward while standing perfectly still. Harvard Business School tracked the habits of their most successful alumni over 40 years. The pattern was undeniable. Those who achieved legendary status in their fields shared one trait above all others. They did not just accumulate knowledge, they implemented it. Within 48 hours of learning something new, they found a way to apply it. Within a week, they had integrated it into their daily practice. Implementation is the bridge between who you are and who you are capable of becoming. Let me paint two pictures of your future. Picture one, it is 10 years from now. You wake up in the same situation you are in today. Maybe slightly better, maybe slightly worse, but fundamentally unchanged. You still have the same doubts, the same limitations, the same ceiling on your potential. You look back at this moment, right now, and you remember that you heard these words. You knew the truth, but you did nothing with it. You let this information pass through you like every other video, every other book, every other promise of change. Picture two, it is 10 years from now. You wake up as someone you would barely recognize today, not because you got lucky, not because circumstances magically aligned, but because you made a decision. Right here, right now, you decided that you were done being average. You decided that your potential was not something to dream about, but something to develop. You decided to invest in the only asset that guaranteed returns. The difference between these two futures is not time. It is not money. It is not opportunity. It is you. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, wrote something 2,000 years ago that applies more today than ever. He said the obstacle is the way. Every challenge you face is not blocking your path to greatness. It is your path to greatness. But only if you have developed yourself enough to see it. Only if you have invested enough in your mind, your skills, and your character to transform obstacles into opportunities. Legends are not born. Let me say that again because it is the single most important truth you will hear in this entire book. Legends are not born. They are built, day by day, decision by decision, investment by investment. The person you admire most in your field did not start as a legend. They started exactly where you are right now. Uncertain, untested, unproven. The only difference is they made a choice. They chose to invest in themselves when it was easier to invest in entertainment. They chose growth when it was more comfortable to choose stagnation. They chose the temporary discomfort of discipline over the permanent regret of mediocrity. McKinsey & Company published research that shattered the myth of overnight success. They studied over 500 individuals who reached the top 1% of their respective industries. The average time from obscurity to mastery was not a few months or even a few years. It was 7 years of consistent, dedicated self-investment. 7 years of showing up when no one was watching. 7 years of building skills that no one could take away. But here is the part they do not put in the headlines. Those 7 years were not suffering. They were transformation. Each day, these individuals became slightly more capable, slightly more valuable, slightly more legendary. The process itself was the reward. The growth itself was the prize. You have a choice to make right now. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Not when the timing feels right. Right now, you can close this book and return to the comfortable patterns that have delivered you to this exact moment. The same habits, the same excuses, the same ceiling on your potential. Or you can decide that this is the beginning. The moment you look back on and realize everything changed. The investment starts with a decision. And that decision starts with understanding what you are truly capable of becoming. In the chapters ahead, you will discover the exact blueprint that legends used to build themselves. The ROI of self-education and why knowledge pays the best interest anyone has ever earned. Mindset mastery and how to rewire your brain for limitless success. The skill stacking strategy that transforms ordinary ability into extraordinary value. Emotional intelligence and how to control your emotions while influencing others. Discipline and habit formation that creates unstoppable momentum. And ultimately, how to leave your mark on this world in a way that outlasts your lifetime. This is not theory. This is the architecture of greatness. The same principles that built empires, launched movements, and created the legends whose names you still know today. But none of it matters if you are not willing to make the investment. The question is not whether you can become legendary. The research is clear. The path is proven. Ordinary people become extraordinary every single day. The question is whether you will. Will you be the 97% who invests in things that depreciate? The cars that lose value the moment you drive them? The gadgets that become obsolete in 18 months? The entertainment that evaporates from memory within hours? Or will you be the 3% who understands the most fundamental truth of success? That you are your greatest asset. That every hour invested in yourself pays dividends for the rest of your life. That the compound effect of consistent self-improvement is the most powerful force available to any human being. Legends are not born, they are built. And that building begins now. In the next chapter, you will discover the ROI of self-education. The mathematics behind why knowledge is not just power, but the highest return investment you will ever make. You will learn exactly how to transform information into income, skills into significance, and learning into legacy. The manifesto has been declared. The path has been revealed. Now the only question that remains is whether you will walk it. Chapter 2: The ROI of Self-Education. Benjamin Franklin said something over 200 years ago that Wall Street still cannot beat. He said an investment in knowledge pays the best interest. Not good interest, not competitive interest, the best interest. And when you understand why, you will never look at learning the same way again. Here is a number that will change your perspective. Warren Buffett, one of the wealthiest humans to ever live, was asked about his single greatest investment. His answer was not Coca-Cola. It was not Apple. It was not Berkshire Hathaway. He pointed to a public speaking course he took when he was 21 years old. A $100 investment. He claims that single skill multiplied his earning potential by at least 50% for the rest of his life. Do the math on that. 50% of billions. From $100 in a few weeks of practice. That is the ROI of self-education. But most people completely misunderstand how this works. They think education means degrees, certifications, formal credentials that take years and cost fortunes. They have been sold a lie so effectively that they never question it. The lie that says learning only counts if someone else validates it. That knowledge only matters if it comes with a piece of paper. Let me show you what the data actually reveals. Google, Apple, and IBM made headlines when they announced that college degrees were no longer required for many positions. But here is what most people missed in that story. They did not lower their standards. They raised them. They started looking for something far more valuable than credentials. They started looking for demonstrated capability, proven skills, evidence of continuous self-improvement. The person who taught themselves to code and built 3 apps will always beat the person who has a degree but built nothing. The person who reads 50 books a year on their industry will always outperform the person who stopped learning at graduation. The person who invests 5 hours weekly in upgrading their abilities will always outpace the person who coasts on yesterday's knowledge. This is not opinion. This is market reality. LinkedIn analyzed over 600 million professional profiles and discovered something that should terrify anyone who stopped learning. The half-life of professional skills has collapsed. 20 years ago, a skill you learned would remain relevant for about 26 years. Today, that same skill becomes obsolete in less than 5 years. In technical fields, it is closer to 2 years. What does this mean for you? It means that standing still is falling behind. It means that your current knowledge is depreciating faster than a new car driving off the lot. It means that self-education is no longer optional. It is survival. But here is where it gets exciting instead of terrifying. The tools for self-education have never been more accessible, more affordable, or more powerful. Right now, you can learn almost anything that has ever been taught at Harvard, Stanford, or MIT for free. You can access the same books that billionaires credit for their success for the price of a coffee. You can listen to the world's greatest minds explain their strategies while you commute, exercise, or do household tasks. The barriers to knowledge have been demolished. The only barrier remaining is your decision to walk through the open door. Now let me teach you something that most people never grasp. The real ROI of self-education is not linear. It is exponential. And understanding this changes everything. When you learn a new skill, you do not simply add that skill to your toolkit. You multiply your existing capabilities. If you understand sales and then learn marketing, you do not become someone who knows sales plus marketing. You become someone who can sell your marketing and market your sales. The combination creates entirely new opportunities that neither skill could unlock alone. Scott Adams, the creator of Dilbert, calls this skill stacking. He argues that you do not need to be world-class at any single thing. You need to be reasonably good at a strategic combination of things. His personal stack was drawing, business knowledge, and humor. He was not the best artist. He was not the best businessman. He was not the funniest person in any room. But the combination of all three made him one of the most successful cartoonists in history. The average professional develops one primary skill and defends it for their entire career. The legend develops a stack of complementary skills that makes them irreplaceable. What is in your stack? And more importantly, what should be? Here is a framework that the most successful self-educators use. I call it the 3-bucket system. Bucket 1 contains income skills. These are capabilities that directly increase your earning potential. Sales, negotiation, technical expertise in your field, public speaking, writing. These skills have immediate, measurable financial returns. Every hour invested in an income skill pays you back in dollars. Bucket 2 contains leverage skills. These are capabilities that multiply the impact of everything else you do. Leadership, communication, time management, systems thinking, delegation. These skills do not make money directly. They amplify every other skill you possess. A salesperson who develops leadership skills does not just sell more. They build teams that sell more. Bucket 3 contains foundation skills. These are capabilities that most people neglect, but that determine long-term success. Emotional intelligence, critical thinking, physical health and energy management, relationship building. These skills are invisible multipliers. They do not show up on a resume, but they determine whether you can sustain success or collapse under its weight. The average person focuses only on income skills because the returns are obvious. The legend balances all 3 buckets because they understand that sustainable greatness requires a complete foundation. Now let me give you the specific formula. For every 10 hours you invest in self-education, allocate 5 hours to income skills, 3 hours to leverage skills, and 2 hours to foundation skills. This ratio ensures that you see immediate returns while building long-term capability. You stay motivated by quick wins while constructing the infrastructure for massive future success. This is not theory. McKinsey studied high performers across multiple industries and found this exact pattern. The top 1% did not just learn more. They learned strategically. They balanced immediate application with long-term development. They treated their education like an investment portfolio, diversifying across time horizons. But knowing what to learn is only half the equation. The other half is knowing how to learn. Most people read books and forget 90% within a week. They watch courses and retain almost nothing. They consume massive amounts of information and transform almost none of it into capability. This is the dirty secret of the self-improvement industry. Information consumption feels like progress, but produces nothing without implementation. Here is what actually works. The Feynman technique, named after the Nobel Prize-winning physicist Richard Feynman, is the single most effective learning method ever documented. It has 4 steps that anyone can follow. Step 1. Choose a concept you want to understand deeply. Step 2. Explain that concept as if you were teaching it to a 12-year-old. Use simple language. Avoid jargon. Create analogies. If you cannot explain something simply, you do not understand it well enough. Step 3. Identify every gap in your explanation. Every place where you stumbled or used vague language reveals a hole in your understanding. Go back to the source material and fill those gaps. Step 4. Simplify and use analogies even further. Keep refining until your explanation is so clear that anyone could understand it. This technique works because it exposes the illusion of knowledge. We think we understand things when we can recognize them, but recognition is not understanding. Understanding means you can explain, apply, and teach. The Feynman technique forces genuine comprehension instead of comfortable familiarity. The average learner highlights passages and feels productive. The legend can teach what they learned to someone else within 48 hours. Here is your challenge. Whatever you learn from this chapter, explain it to someone else today. Not tomorrow. Today. Find a friend, a colleague, a family member, even a voice recorder. Explain the ROI of self-education. Explain the three-bucket system. Explain the Feynman technique. If you can do this, you have learned. If you cannot, you have only consumed. Now I need to tell you about the greatest enemy of self-education. It is not time. It is not money. It is not access to information. The greatest enemy is the myth of someday. Someday I will read more. Someday I will take that course. Someday I will develop that skill. Someday is a disease that has killed more potential than any obstacle ever could. Someday is where dreams go to die. Someday is the comfortable lie we tell ourselves to avoid the discomfort of action. The legend does not wait for someday. The legend starts today with whatever time they have. 15 minutes during lunch, 30 minutes before the household wakes up, an hour of audiobooks during the commute. The legend understands that small, consistent investments compound into extraordinary results. Remember that 1% daily improvement we discussed. 1% does not feel like much. It is almost invisible in the moment. But 1% daily for 1 year makes you 37 times better. Not 37% better. 37 times. That is the mathematics of consistent self-education. That is the ROI that no stock, no real estate, no business investment can match. Because unlike every other investment, this one cannot be lost to market crashes. It cannot be stolen by economic downturns. It cannot be devalued by inflation. What you learn becomes part of who you are. It compounds inside your mind for the rest of your life. The average person says they do not have time to learn. The legend says they do not have time not to learn. The average person waits for perfect conditions. The legend creates conditions by starting imperfectly. The average person invests their spare time in entertainment that provides momentary pleasure. The legend invests their spare time in education that provides permanent capability. Which person are you choosing to be? The manifesto in Chapter 1 declared that you are your greatest asset. This chapter has shown you exactly how to increase the value of that asset. The three-bucket system, the Feynman technique, the 1% daily formula. These are not ideas to think about. They are tools to implement. Your education did not end when you left school. It began. The question is whether you will continue it deliberately or let it happen accidentally. Whether you will invest strategically or consume randomly. Whether you will become the person who transforms information into capability or the person who drowns in content while building nothing. In the next chapter, we will dive deep into mindset mastery. Because all the knowledge in the world means nothing if your mind is programmed for limitation. You will learn how to rewire your brain for success, eliminate the invisible beliefs that hold you back, and develop the mental operating system that legends run on. The ROI of self-education is infinite, but only if you have the mindset to apply what you learn. That transformation begins in Chapter 3. Chapter 3, Mindset Mastery. Your brain is lying to you. Right now, as you listen to these words, there are beliefs operating in the background of your mind that you did not choose. Beliefs that were installed by parents, teachers, society, and experiences you barely remember. And these invisible programs are determining the ceiling of your success more than your talent, your effort, or your opportunities ever will. This is not philosophy. This is neuroscience. Stanford psychologist Carol Dweck spent over 30 years studying why some people reach their potential while others plateau far below it. Her research, spanning hundreds of thousands of subjects across multiple countries, revealed something that shocked the scientific community. The single greatest predictor of achievement was not ability. It was belief about ability. She discovered two fundamental mindsets. The fixed mindset believes that intelligence, talent, and capability are static. You either have it or you do not. The growth mindset believes that every ability can be developed through dedication and strategic effort. You become what you consistently work toward. Here is why this matters more than almost anything else in this book. People with fixed mindsets avoid challenges because failure would prove their limitations. People with growth mindsets seek challenges because struggle is how capability expands. People with fixed mindsets collapse when they hit obstacles because difficulty confirms their inadequacy. People with growth mindsets push harder when they hit obstacles because resistance is evidence of growth happening. Same circumstances, same obstacles, same opportunities, completely different outcomes. The only variable is the operating system running between their ears. Now here is what nobody tells you about mindset. You do not have one mindset. You have dozens. You might have a growth mindset about your physical fitness, but a fixed mindset about your intelligence. You might believe you can learn any skill in business, but believe you will never be good at relationships. These beliefs are not global. They are domain-specific, and each limiting belief in each domain is costing you. The average person accepts their mental programming as reality. The legend audits their beliefs and upgrades the ones that no longer serve them. Let me show you how to do exactly that. The first step is identification. You cannot change what you cannot see. And the most dangerous beliefs are the ones so deeply embedded that they feel like facts rather than opinions. Here is an exercise that has transformed the self-perception of executives, athletes, and performers at the highest levels. Complete this sentence out loud, right now, with the first thing that comes to mind. People like me do not blank. Whatever filled that blank is a limiting belief. People like me do not become wealthy. People like me do not get promoted. People like me do not have successful relationships. People like me do not build businesses. Whatever your mind produced, that is a program running in your subconscious that is actively filtering your reality. These beliefs do not just affect your motivation. They affect your perception. Neuroscientists at University College London discovered that the brain literally cannot see opportunities that conflict with its core beliefs. If you believe people like you do not become wealthy, your brain will delete, distort, and ignore every pathway to wealth that crosses your field of vision. Not because you are lazy, because your mental operating system has been programmed to make those opportunities invisible. This is why two people can be in the same room, hear the same opportunity, and have completely different responses. One sees possibility, one sees nothing. The difference is not intelligence. It is programming. The second step is interrogation. Once you identify a limiting belief, you must put it on trial. Ask yourself 3 questions. First, is this belief actually true, or is it just familiar? Most limiting beliefs feel true because you have repeated them so many times. Repetition creates the illusion of truth. But familiarity is not evidence. Just because you have believed something for 20 years does not make it accurate. Second, where did this belief come from? Trace it back. Did a parent say it? Did a teacher imply it? Did you conclude it after one painful experience and never revisit the conclusion? Most of our deepest beliefs were formed before we had the cognitive ability to evaluate them critically. You are running adult decisions on childhood programming. Third, what has this belief cost you? Calculate the real price. The promotions you did not pursue, the businesses you did not start, the relationships you did not initiate, the risks you did not take. Every limiting belief has a cost. And when you actually add up that cost, you develop the motivation to pay the price of change. The average person defends their limitations. The legend prosecutes them. The third step is replacement. Your brain abhors a vacuum. You cannot simply delete a belief. You must install something in its place. And this is where most people fail. They try to replace a negative belief with its opposite. I am terrible at public speaking becomes I am amazing at public speaking. But your brain rejects this. It knows the evidence does not support such a dramatic flip. Instead, use what psychologists call bridge beliefs. These are statements that your brain can accept as plausible while moving you toward your desired identity. I am terrible at public speaking becomes I am someone who is actively improving my public speaking skills. I am not good with money becomes I am learning to manage money better every day. I will never be successful becomes I am building skills that increase my chances of success. Notice the difference. Bridge beliefs acknowledge current reality while asserting direction. They do not require your brain to accept something it considers false. They only require your brain to accept that change is possible and underway. And that is enough to begin rewiring the neural pathways. Here is the neuroscience that makes this work. Your brain contains approximately 86 billion neurons. Each thought you think creates or strengthens a neural pathway. Thoughts you repeat become highways. Thoughts you abandon become overgrown trails. This is called neuroplasticity, and it means that your brain physically restructures itself based on what you consistently think. When you repeat a limiting belief, you strengthen the neural pathway that produces it. When you interrupt that belief and replace it with a bridge belief, you begin weakening the old pathway and constructing a new one. This is not instant. Neuroscientists estimate it takes between 66 and 254 days to form a new automatic thought pattern. But every single repetition matters. Every time you catch the old belief and consciously redirect to the new one, you are literally rebuilding your brain. The average person thinks their thoughts happen to them. The legend understands that thoughts are constructed and takes responsibility for the construction. Now let me introduce you to the most powerful mindset tool I have ever encountered. It is called identity level change, and it explains why most self-improvement fails. Most people try to change their behaviors. They set goals for what they want to do. I want to exercise more. I want to read more. I want to save more money. But behavior change is the weakest level of change because it fights against identity. If you see yourself as someone who is not athletic, every workout is a battle against who you believe you are. If you see yourself as someone who is not a reader, every book is a contradiction of your self-image. If you see yourself as someone who is bad with money, every budget feels like wearing a costume. This is why willpower fails. You cannot permanently act in contradiction to your identity. Eventually, you will return to behaviors that match who you believe you are. The solution is to change identity first. Not I want to exercise. I am someone who prioritizes physical health. Not I want to read more. I am a learner. Not I want to save money. I am someone who builds wealth. When your identity shifts, behaviors follow automatically. A person who identifies as a learner does not need motivation to read. Reading is simply what learners do. A person who identifies as someone who builds wealth does not need willpower to save. Saving is simply what wealth builders do. James Clear, author of Atomic Habits, documented this pattern across thousands of successful behavior changes. The people who maintained transformation were not the ones with the most willpower. They were the ones who changed how they saw themselves. Identity preceded behavior. Self-image preceded action. Here is how to apply this today. Write down 3 identities you need to embody to achieve your biggest goals. Not behaviors, identities. Not what you want to do, who you need to become. Then, for each identity, ask yourself this question. What would a person with this identity do today? Not tomorrow, not eventually, today. If one of your required identities is someone who invests in themselves, what would that person do today? They would finish this audiobook. They would take notes. They would identify one skill to develop and take the first step toward developing it. They would not wait for motivation. They would act because that is who they are. The average person waits to feel like the person they want to become. The legend acts like that person until the feelings follow. There is one more element of mindset mastery that separates legends from everyone else. It is the relationship with failure. Most people experience failure as evidence that they should stop. The attempt did not work, therefore I am not capable, therefore I should try something else or give up entirely. This interpretation of failure is the single greatest killer of potential in human history. Legends interpret failure differently. They experience failure as information. The attempt did not work, therefore I learned what does not work, therefore I am closer to discovering what does work. Same event, completely different meaning, completely different trajectory. Thomas Edison reportedly made over 10,000 failed attempts before successfully creating a commercially viable light bulb. When asked about these failures, he said he had not failed. He had successfully discovered 10,000 ways that do not work. That reframe is not positive thinking nonsense. It is strategic interpretation that preserves momentum. Sarah Blakely, the founder of Spanx and the youngest self-made female billionaire in history, credits her success to a question her father asked every night at dinner. What did you fail at today? Failure was not something to avoid or hide. It was evidence that she was attempting things outside her comfort zone. It was proof that she was growing. Your relationship with failure determines your capacity for success. If failure means stop, your potential is capped by your first significant obstacle. If failure means learn, your potential is limited only by your persistence. The brain you have right now is not the brain you're stuck with. The beliefs you hold right now are not permanent fixtures. The identity you have right now is not your final form. Neuroplasticity means you can rewire. Belief interrogation means you can upgrade. Identity level change means you can transform who you are at the most fundamental level. This is mindset mastery, not positive thinking, not affirmations in the mirror. The systematic audit and upgrade of the mental operating system that determines what you see, what you attempt, and what you achieve. In the next chapter, we will explore skill stacking, the strategy that the world's most successful people use to become irreplaceable. You will learn how to combine ordinary abilities into extraordinary value, and why being the best at one thing matters far less than being strategically good at several. Your mindset is the foundation. Your skills are the structure you build on top of it. That construction begins in Chapter 4. Chapter 4, the Skill Stack Strategy. Here is a question that will redefine how you think about success. What do you get when you combine someone who is pretty good at drawing, reasonably funny, and understands business? You do not get an average person with 3 mediocre skills. You get Scott Adams, the creator of Dilbert, worth over $75 million. That is the power of skill stacking, and it is the reason you do not need to be the best in the world at anything to achieve extraordinary results. Let me explain why this matters more now than at any point in human history. For generations, the path to success was simple. Pick one thing. Become the best. Dominate. Doctors specialized. Lawyers specialized. Engineers specialized. The world rewarded depth over breadth. The expert won. That world is disappearing. The World Economic Forum analyzed the skills that will define success in the coming decade. Their finding contradicted a century of career advice. The most valuable professionals will not be the deepest specialists. They will be the most strategic generalists. People who can connect ideas across domains. People who can solve problems that require multiple types of expertise. People who have built a stack of complementary skills that makes them impossible to replace and impossible to replicate. The specialist says, I am the best at this one thing. The skill stacker says, I am the only one who can do this combination of things. And in a world where artificial intelligence is rapidly mastering single domain expertise, being the only one matters far more than being the best one. Now let me show you the mathematics that make this strategy so powerful. Imagine you want to be a world-class public speaker. To reach the top 1%, you would need to outperform 99 out of every 100 speakers. That requires years of dedicated practice, natural talent, and probably some luck. The odds are brutal. But what if instead you became a top 25% public speaker, a top 25% writer, and a top 25% expert in your specific industry? None of those individually makes you exceptional, but combined, you are now in the top 1% of people who can speak well, write well, and understand your industry deeply. You have achieved elite status not by being the best at one thing, but by being good at 3 things that multiply each other. This is not theory. This is how legends are actually built. Elon Musk is not the best engineer in the world. He is not the best businessman. He is not the best physicist. But his combination of engineering knowledge, business acumen, physics understanding, and risk tolerance creates a stack that almost no one else possesses. That unique combination is why he can see opportunities that pure specialists miss. Steve Jobs was not the best designer. He was not the best programmer. He was not the best marketer. But his combination of design sensibility, technology understanding, and marketing instinct created products that specialists in any single field could never imagine. The pattern repeats across every industry, every era, every definition of success. The legends are not the best at one thing. They are the best at their particular combination of things. The average person asks, what should I specialize in? The legend asks, what combination should I build? Now here is how to actually build your stack. There are 3 types of skills that create maximum leverage when combined. I call them the triple multiplier framework. The first type is a hard skill. This is technical expertise that can be measured and verified. Coding, data analysis, financial modeling, design, writing, engineering, medical knowledge, legal expertise. Hard skills are the foundation of professional credibility. They prove you can do something specific and valuable. The second type is a soft skill. This is interpersonal capability that amplifies everything else. Communication, leadership, negotiation, emotional intelligence, persuasion, networking. Soft skills determine how effectively you can deploy your hard skills in the real world. The brilliant engineer who cannot communicate is worth less than the good engineer who can. The third type is a contextual skill. This is understanding that gives you an unfair advantage in a specific domain. Industry knowledge, market awareness, cultural fluency, technical trends, regulatory landscape. Contextual skills let you see opportunities and threats that outsiders miss. The most powerful stacks combine at least one skill from each category. A hard skill proves you can deliver. A soft skill lets you multiply your delivery. A contextual skill shows you where to deliver for maximum impact. Let me give you a concrete example. Consider two marketing professionals. Professional A has mastered digital advertising. They can build campaigns, optimize funnels, and analyze metrics with exceptional precision. They are a top 10% hard skill specialist. Professional B is top 25% at digital advertising, top 25% at public speaking, and top 25% at understanding the healthcare industry. Their advertising skills are objectively weaker than Professional A, but they can speak at healthcare conferences, build relationships with industry leaders, and create campaigns that resonate with healthcare professionals in ways that a pure advertising specialist never could. Who is more valuable? Who is harder to replace? Who will command higher fees and more opportunities? The stack wins. Every time. Now let me give you the specific process for building your personal skill stack. Step 1 is the audit. List every skill you currently possess. Do not be modest. Do not leave things out because they seem irrelevant. Include professional skills. Include hobbies. Include things you learned years ago and have not used recently. Include soft skills that feel too basic to mention. Get everything on paper. Step 2 is the rating. For each skill, rate yourself honestly on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 means you barely have the skill. 10 means you are world class. Most people cluster between 3 and 7. That is fine. You do not need 10s. You need strategic combinations of 5s, 6s, and 7s. Step 3 is the market analysis. Look at your industry. Look at adjacent industries. Look at emerging fields. Ask yourself what combinations are rare. What combinations are valuable? What combinations do you see successful people possessing that are not being explicitly taught anywhere? The gold is in the gaps. The skills that everyone needs, but few people combine. Step 4 is the strategic edition. Based on your audit, your ratings, and your market analysis, identify 1 or 2 skills that would dramatically increase the value of your existing stack. Not skills that sound impressive. Skills that multiply what you already have. If you are a developer who struggles to explain technical concepts to non-technical people, your highest leverage addition might be communication or storytelling. If you are a salesperson who cannot analyze your own data, your highest leverage addition might be basic analytics. If you are an expert in your field who nobody has heard of, your highest leverage addition might be personal branding or public speaking. The right addition does not just add to your stack. It multiplies everything already in it. Harvard Business Review studied over 400 senior executives who reached the C-suite before age 45. The pattern was undeniable. These fast-track leaders had built skill stacks intentionally, not accidentally. They could identify exactly which combinations had accelerated their rise. And the most common element across almost all of them was the combination of deep expertise in one area plus exceptional communication ability. They knew their domain and they could make others care about it. That combination alone puts you ahead of 90% of professionals who have one or the other, but rarely both. Here is a warning about skill stacking that most people miss. Not all skill combinations create value. Some skills are additive. They sit next to each other, but do not interact. Being good at accounting and good at tennis does not make you more valuable than being good at either one alone. These skills exist in separate domains with no multiplication effect. The stacks that matter are multiplicative. The skills interact. They create new capabilities that neither skill could produce alone. Writing plus public speaking is multiplicative. You can write speeches, create content that gets shared, and build authority across multiple channels. Design plus coding is multiplicative. You can build products without depending on others, see possibilities that pure designers or pure coders miss. Sales plus industry expertise is multiplicative. You can sell to sophisticated buyers who would dismiss a generalist, and you can identify opportunities that pure experts would never pursue. When selecting skills to add to your stack, always ask, will this multiply what I already have, or will it just sit beside it? The multiplication question is the key to strategic skill building. Now let me address the most common objection. I do not have time to develop multiple skills. I can barely keep up with one. This objection reveals a fundamental misunderstanding of how skill stacking works. You do not need to master multiple skills at the same level. You need to be good enough at each skill for the combination to create unique value. Good enough is typically the top 25 to 50%. That is achievable in most skills with focused effort over 6 to 12 months. Not years, months. The 1% rule from Chapter 1 applies here perfectly. If you improve at a new skill by just 1% per day, you will be in the top 25% within a few months. That is enough for your stack to start generating outsized returns. The average person spends years trying to move from the 90th percentile to the 95th in a single skill. Diminishing returns, brutal competition, marginal improvement. The legend spends those same years adding 2 or 3 complementary skills at the 75th percentile. Multiplying returns, limited competition, exponential improvement, same time investment, radically different outcomes. Your skill stack is your professional DNA. It is what makes you uniquely you in a marketplace that increasingly rewards uniqueness. It is your defense against automation, your moat against competition, and your ticket to opportunities that do not exist for single skill specialists. In the next chapter, we explore emotional intelligence, the skill that multiplies every other skill in your stack. You will learn how to read people, regulate yourself, and influence others in ways that transform professional relationships and personal success. Your skills make you capable. Your emotional intelligence makes you powerful. That power is revealed in Chapter 5. Chapter 5, Emotional Intelligence, the Hidden Advantage. The highest paid person in almost every organization is rarely the smartest. Read that again. The person earning the most, influencing the most, and advancing the fastest is almost never the one with the highest IQ. This is not speculation. This is data from over 200 companies and thousands of executives. So what separates those at the top from those stuck in the middle? Daniel Goleman, the psychologist who brought emotional intelligence into mainstream awareness, analyzed competency models from 188 companies worldwide. He wanted to know what percentage of the skills that distinguished top performers were cognitive abilities versus emotional intelligence capabilities. The results shocked even him. For leadership positions, emotional intelligence accounted for nearly 90% of the difference between average performers and stars. Not 90% of success, 90% of the difference between good and great. IQ and technical skills matter. They get you in the door. But emotional intelligence determines how high you climb once you are inside. This is the hidden advantage. And unlike IQ, which remains relatively fixed throughout your life, emotional intelligence can be developed at any age, at any stage, starting right now. Let me break down exactly what emotional intelligence is and how to build it. Emotional intelligence has 4 core components: self-awareness, self-regulation, social awareness, and relationship management. Each one builds on the previous. Each one multiplies the effectiveness of everything else in your skill stack. The first component is self-awareness. This is the foundation of all emotional intelligence. Self-awareness means understanding your own emotions as they happen, not after the meeting when you realize you were defensive, not the next day when you recognize you were anxious. In the moment, as it occurs. Most people are emotionally illiterate about themselves. They feel something and react before they even identify what they feel. Anger becomes yelling before they recognize they are angry. Fear becomes avoidance before they acknowledge they are afraid. Insecurity becomes aggression before they admit they feel threatened. The average person is controlled by emotions they cannot name. The legend names their emotions and therefore controls them. Here is a practice that transforms self-awareness within weeks. 3 times per day, stop whatever you are doing and ask yourself 2 questions. What am I feeling right now? And what triggered this feeling? Do not judge. Do not try to change anything. Just observe and name. This simple practice builds what neuroscientists call metacognition, the ability to think about your own thinking. The more you practice naming emotions, the faster you recognize them. The faster you recognize them, the more choice you have in how to respond. Research from UCLA showed that simply naming an emotion reduces its intensity in the brain. The act of labeling moves neural activity from the reactive amygdala to the rational prefrontal cortex. Words create distance. Distance creates choice. The second component is self-regulation. Self-awareness tells you what you feel. Self-regulation determines what you do about it. This is the ability to manage disruptive impulses, maintain composure under pressure, and respond thoughtfully rather than react automatically. Think about the last time you sent an email you regretted. The last time you said something in anger that damaged a relationship. The last time you made a decision from fear that cost you an opportunity. Every one of those moments was a self-regulation failure, and every one of those failures had a price. The average person believes they cannot control their reactions. Something happens, and they respond. Cause and effect. Automatic. But between stimulus and response, there is a space. Viktor Frankl, the psychiatrist who survived Nazi concentration camps, identified this space as the source of all human freedom. In that space lies your power to choose your response. In your response lies your growth and your freedom. Expanding that space is the essence of self-regulation. Here is how to do it practically. When you feel a strong emotional reaction, do not act immediately. Institute a pause protocol. For minor triggers, take 3 deep breaths before responding. For moderate triggers, wait 10 minutes. For major triggers, wait 24 hours before any significant action or communication. This is not suppressing emotions. Suppression backfires. This is creating space between feeling and action so that your response serves your long-term interests rather than your momentary impulse. A study from the University of California tracked executives who implemented pause protocols in their communication. Within 3 months, their teams reported 40% higher trust levels. Their conflict resolution improved by over 50%. Their reputations for leadership judgment increased dramatically, all from simply pausing before reacting. The third component is social awareness. This is empathy plus perception, the ability to read the emotional currents in a room, to understand what others feel even when they do not say it, to sense the unspoken dynamics that determine how decisions really get made. Most people listen to respond. They hear words while planning their reply. They see faces while thinking about their own agenda. They miss the emotional subtext that carries more meaning than the words themselves. The legend listens to understand. They watch body language. They notice tone shifts. They pay attention to what is not being said. They read between the lines because that is where the real information lives. Here is a technique that accelerates social awareness development. In your next 5 conversations, make this your only goal. Identify the emotion behind the words. Do not focus on the content. Do not plan your response. Just try to name what the other person is feeling. Are they excited but trying to appear calm? Are they anxious but hiding it with humor? Are they frustrated but expressing it as logic? Once you start looking for emotional subtext, you will see it everywhere. And seeing it changes everything about how you communicate. Research from Harvard Business School found that executives rated highest in empathy produced over 40% more profit for their organizations. Not because empathy is soft, because empathy is information. Understanding what others feel gives you insight into what they need, what they fear, what will motivate them, and what will alienate them. The fourth component is relationship management. This is where all the other components combine into influence. Relationship management is the ability to inspire, persuade, develop others, and navigate conflict. It is emotional intelligence in action. The average person tries to influence through logic alone. They present facts. They make arguments. They assume that correct information produces correct decisions, and they are constantly frustrated when it does not. The legend understands that people decide emotionally and justify logically. Every purchase decision, every career choice, every relationship commitment. Emotion leads, logic follows. Influence that ignores this reality fails regardless of how sound the reasoning. This does not mean manipulation. Manipulation uses emotional understanding to exploit others for personal gain. Influence uses emotional understanding to create genuine alignment and mutual benefit. The difference is intent. The difference is whether you are trying to get something from someone or create something with someone. Here is how to apply relationship management immediately. Before any important conversation, ask yourself 3 questions. What does this person care about most deeply? What are they afraid of in this situation? What would make them feel genuinely good about the outcome? Then structure your communication around those answers. Not around what you want, around what they need. When people feel understood, they open up. When they feel that your proposal addresses their real concerns, they engage. When they believe you care about their success, they trust your guidance. Dale Carnegie wrote that you can make more friends in 2 months by becoming genuinely interested in others than you can in 2 years by trying to get others interested in you. That was true in 1936 when he published it. It is true today, and it will be true for as long as humans remain human. Now let me share the integration secret that turns these 4 components into unstoppable advantage. Most people try to develop emotional intelligence in isolation. They work on self-awareness for a while, then move to self-regulation, then try empathy. But these components are not sequential. They are simultaneous. They feed each other in real time. Here is how it works in practice. You walk into a meeting. Self-awareness tells you that you are feeling defensive because your project is being evaluated. Self-regulation helps you take a breath and choose curiosity over defensiveness. Social awareness lets you notice that your colleague is also anxious, perhaps even more than you. Relationship management guides you to acknowledge their contribution before defending your own, creating alliance instead of competition. All 4 components, seconds apart, integrated into a single fluid response that transforms the interaction. The average person reacts from unconscious emotion and wonders why relationships are so difficult. The legend operates from conscious emotional intelligence and builds alliances everywhere they go. Let me leave you with this truth. Your emotional intelligence is not fixed. It is not determined by your childhood, your personality type, or your natural temperament. It is a skill. It can be trained. It can be developed. It can be mastered. TalentSmart tested emotional intelligence alongside 33 other workplace skills. EQ was the strongest predictor of performance, explaining 58% of success in all job types. More than experience, more than education, more than any other single factor. This is not a soft skill. This is the hardest skill. The one that separates those who have talent from those who can deploy it. The one that determines whether your skill stack creates opportunity or creates friction. In the next chapter, we tackle discipline, the force that transforms intention into action and action into results. You will learn why motivation fails, how habits actually form, and the specific systems that legends use to show up consistently when everyone else quits. Emotional intelligence shows you the path. Discipline makes you walk it. That walk begins in Chapter 6. Chapter 6, Discipline, the bridge between goals and achievement. Motivation is a lie. The most beautiful, seductive, destructive lie in the entire self-improvement industry. And until you understand why, you will keep starting things you never finish, making promises you never keep, and wondering why your potential stays locked behind a door you cannot seem to open. Here is the truth that changes everything. Motivation is an emotion, and like all emotions, it comes and goes without your permission. Some mornings you wake up ready to conquer the world. Other mornings you cannot conquer your alarm clock. If your success depends on motivation, your success depends on something you cannot control. That is not a plan. That is a lottery ticket. Discipline is different. Discipline is a decision. It operates independent of how you feel. It shows up on the days when motivation disappears. It does the work when the excitement fades. It builds the bridge between who you are and who you want to become, one brick at a time, whether you feel like laying bricks or not. Discipline equals freedom. You have heard the phrase. You might even believe it, but you have not lived it yet. The person without discipline is enslaved to impulses. They eat what they feel like eating, work when they feel like working, exercise when they feel motivated, save money when it is convenient. Every decision is a negotiation with momentary feelings, and feelings are inconsistent, unreliable, and often self-sabotaging. The disciplined person is free from impulses. They eat what serves their goals. They work according to their commitments. They exercise because it is scheduled. They save money automatically. Decisions are made once, then executed without renegotiation. While others waste mental energy on constant debate, the disciplined invest that energy into progress. The average person waits to feel ready. The legend acts and lets the feelings follow. Now let's make this practical, because discipline is not a personality trait. It is a system. Most people think discipline is willpower, white-knuckling through temptation, pushing harder, trying to be strong. But willpower is unreliable, almost as unreliable as motivation. It runs out. It depletes. It collapses after a long day of decisions, stress, and resistance. That is why you can be good all day and fall apart at night. Not because you are broken, because you are drained. So if willpower drains, what holds the line? Habits. A habit is discipline that no longer requires discipline. Every habit has a structure, a cue, a routine, and a reward. The cue triggers the behavior. The routine is the behavior. The reward locks it in. Once a habit is installed, it requires almost no negotiation. It becomes automatic. It becomes identity. This is the real secret. You do not need discipline forever. You need discipline long enough to build habits. Then the habits carry you. The average person tries to use willpower forever and burns out. The legend uses willpower strategically to install habits, then coasts on automation. Here is how you install discipline as a habit system. Step 1. Ruthless simplicity. Most people fail because they try to change everything at once. They wake up and attempt a new life in one morning. Exercise daily, eat perfectly, read more, meditate, journal, learn a new skill, become a new person. By day 14, they abandon everything. Pick one habit, the most important one, the one that creates the biggest cascade. Install it completely before adding another. Step 2. Environment design. Your environment shapes your behavior more than your intentions do. If you want to eat healthy but your kitchen is full of junk, you are fighting every day. If you want to read more but your phone is always within reach, you are battling your environment constantly. The disciplined person does not rely on resisting temptation. They design environments where temptation is weaker or doesn't exist. Want morning workouts? Put your clothes out and your bag by the door. Want reading at night? Put the book on your pillow and charge your phone in another room. Want saving money? Automate transfers so the money is gone before you can spend it. Step 3. Habit stacking. Use an existing habit as the anchor for the new one. After I pour my morning coffee, I will journal for 5 minutes. After I sit at my desk, I will list my 3 priorities. After dinner, I will read for 20 minutes. The old habit becomes the cue. You don't remember the new behavior. You get prompted automatically. Step 4. The 2-minute rule. When installing a habit, start so small it feels ridiculous. 2 minutes of meditation, 2 minutes of stretching, 2 sentences of writing. The goal is not achievement. The goal is consistency. The goal is identity. I am someone who shows up. Once the pattern is established, expansion becomes natural, but only if you started small enough to never miss. Step 5. Never miss twice. You will miss days. Life happens. Energy drops. Emergencies appear. Missing once is human. Missing twice is a new habit. The disciplined person treats the day after a miss as the most important day, not with guilt, not with punishment, but with recommitment. One miss is a stumble. 2 misses is a direction. Now let's address the other side, breaking bad habits. You cannot simply delete a habit. You replace it. First, identify the cue. What triggers the unwanted behavior? Time of day, location, emotion, preceding action. Find the trigger. Second, understand the reward. What does the habit actually provide? Escape, comfort, connection, relief, stimulation. Be honest. The reward is real, even if the habit is destructive. Third, replace the routine. Keep the cue. Keep a similar reward. Change the action. If scrolling is stress relief, substitute a walk. If snacking is comfort, substitute water plus a reset. If procrastination is avoidance, substitute a 2-minute start. Same architecture, new outcome. And here is the final truth of discipline that most people never stay long enough to see. The early progress is invisible. The results are delayed. That is where most people quit. They expect linear progress and receive exponential progress that starts slowly. The disciplined person understands that invisible progress is still progress. They keep laying bricks when the building is not yet visible. 6 months from now, you will arrive somewhere. The question is whether you arrive by accident or by design, whether you are shaped by impulses or by intentions, whether you look back with regret or pride. Discipline is the bridge, not motivation, not inspiration, not willpower. Discipline, systematized into habits, designed into your environment, stacked onto what already works, started small enough to sustain, protected with the never miss twice rule. And once you build that bridge, the next question becomes even more dangerous. Who are you crossing it with? Because discipline determines what you do, but your circle determines who you become. That in Flu. NCE begins now. Chapter 7. Your circle is your net worth. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. It sounds like a quote you put on a poster, nod at, and forget. But it is not poetry. It is programming. Your environment writes code into your standards, your beliefs, your habits, and your definition of what is normal. If your circle normalizes mediocrity, your ambition will feel like arrogance. If your circle normalizes excellence, your growth will feel inevitable. Most people let proximity choose their circle. Co-workers they didn't select. Friends inherited from old seasons of life. Relationships built on history instead of alignment. They don't audit the influence, they absorb it. And then they wonder why they keep circling the same level year after year. Here is the truth. You do not rise alone. You rise with a network that elevates your thinking, expands your options, and holds you to a higher standard than comfort ever will. Your circle is not just company. It is a force. It pushes you forward or pulls you back. It accelerates your discipline or erodes it. It builds your confidence or slowly dissolves it with jokes, doubt, and subtle negativity. People spread norms like a virus. Not only behaviors, but expectations. What your friends tolerate becomes what you tolerate. What they celebrate becomes what you pursue. What they ridicule becomes what you hide. If your group treats health like a joke, your workouts become too much. If your group treats learning as pointless, your studying becomes trying too hard. If your group treats growth as embarrassing, your progress becomes something you keep quiet to avoid being punished for evolving. So the first move is not cutting everyone off. The first move is seeing clearly. Take out a note and write the 5 people you spend the most time with outside of family obligations. Not the 5 people you admire, the 5 you actually interact with. Then answer 3 questions for each person, honestly, without performing for your own ego. Question 1. Does this person's trajectory point where you want to go? Not where they came from, not their potential, but their direction. Are they building, stagnating, or declining? If you followed their habits for 2 years, would you be proud of your destination? Question 2. After time with them, do you feel energized or drained? Some people leave you sharper, braver, more focused. Others leave you tired, cynical, and smaller. The after effect tells the truth. Question 3. Do they challenge you to improve, or do they validate your excuses? Real support is not comfort. Real support is honesty. The people who love you most should not applaud your shrinking. They should remind you who you are when you forget. Now pay attention to patterns. You will likely see 3 categories. First, builders, people who grow, who take responsibility, who face reality, who act. Their presence raises your standards. Keep them close. Second, neutral history, decent people, but not aligned with your direction. They are not toxic. They are simply not aiming where you are aiming. These relationships can remain, but they cannot be your primary environment. Third, anchors, people who mock discipline, resent ambition, and punish progress. They may do it with sarcasm, jokes, or constant crisis. They keep you busy with drama, so you never build. They treat your growth like betrayal because your evolution highlights their stagnation. Here is the rule: you do not need to abandon everyone. You need to adjust proportions. If someone drains you, reduce frequency and duration. Fewer late-night calls, shorter hangouts, less access to your inner world. Not a war, just distance. Meanwhile, increase the time you spend with builders. Addition is often more powerful than subtraction. When you add better influences, the old ones naturally shrink in impact. But be honest, some relationships must end, not reduced. End it. If someone repeatedly undermines your confidence, sabotages your efforts, or turns your goals into a joke, you are paying a tax on your future. And taxes compound. Upgrading your circle requires strategy, not wishful thinking. You don't find great people by hoping. You create proximity. Approach 1. Go where ambitious people gather. Conferences, workshops, classes, professional associations, meetups, paid communities. Environments with standards attract people with standards. You cannot build relationships with people you never encounter. Approach 2. Lead with value, not need. Don't open with "Can you help me?" Open with "I can do this." Great people are flooded with requests, but they remember contributors. Solve a problem. Share a resource. Make an introduction. Offer support. Value is the entry fee. Approach 3. Use digital leverage with patience. Comment with insight, not compliments. Share someone's work and add real perspective. Ask intelligent questions. Show up consistently. Over time, consistent value creates recognition, and recognition creates access. Approach 4. Play the long game. Most people network only when they want something. That is why they look desperate, because they are. The legend builds relationships before they need them. They stay in touch when there is nothing to ask. They invest without keeping score. And once you enter a higher standard environment, something quiet but powerful happens. Your beliefs change. The first million feels impossible until you know 5 people who built it. Writing a book feels terrifying until your circle treats publishing as normal. Starting a business feels risky until you spend time with founders who failed, learned, and tried again. Your circle stretches the boundary of possible. That is why your circle is your net worth. Not metaphorically, practically. Relationships determine information flow, opportunities, introductions, accountability, and mentorship. One call from the right person can change your career. One peer can pull you through a season where your motivation collapses. One mentor can save you years of mistakes. One community can make discipline feel normal instead of lonely. But there is a final warning. Upgrading your circle will trigger resistance, inside you and around you. Some people will not celebrate your growth. They will test you. They will invite you back into old patterns. They will label your boundaries as arrogance. That is the price of evolution. Pay it. You are not here to be liked by everyone. You are here to become who you are capable of becoming. So choose your environment like your life depends on it, because it does. Curate your inputs. Protect your standards. Spend more time where excellence is normal. Reduce exposure where excuses are celebrated. And remember, the goal is not to use people. The goal is mutual elevation. Relationships where you want to help them long-term, and they want to help you long-term. Your circle will either accelerate your rise or anchor your mediocrity. Choose accordingly. Then step into the rooms that demand more from you and become the version of you that can thrive there. In the next chapter, we turn to the fuel that powers everything else: energy. Because the right circle can raise your standards, but only energy can sustain your execution. Chapter 8. The final investment: energy, systems, and legacy. Let me tell you about the biggest lie in the productivity world. Every system, every hack, Every guru telling you to wake up at 5 a.m. assumes one thing: that you actually have the fuel to do what they are asking. You already know what happens when you do not. You set the alarm for 6. You had the whole morning planned. Then the alarm goes off and your body feels like concrete. You hit snooze, not because you are lazy, because you are running on empty. Time management is a game you cannot win if your energy is broken. Time is fixed. Energy is renewable. 1 hour in a peak state produces more than an entire afternoon of grinding through exhaustion. Energy has 4 layers: physical, sleep, movement, nutrition; emotional, your capacity to handle pressure without cracking; mental, your ability to focus and think deeply; spiritual, meaning, purpose, the sense that your effort matters. If any one layer leaks, the others cannot compensate. I used to think sleep was for people who lacked ambition. Then I noticed what 5-hour nights actually cost me. My decisions got worse. My patience disappeared. I was not working more effectively. I was just awake longer, producing garbage. Protect your physical foundation. Consistent sleep beats random long nights. Movement sharpens your brain, not just your body. Nutrition fuels the organ that consumes 20% of your calories. Good enough, repeated daily, beats perfect, attempted occasionally. Protect your emotional reserves. Notice what drains you and what fills you. Set boundaries with people who consistently take more than they give. Recovery is not the opposite of performance. It is part of performance. Protect your mental peaks. Your most important work must happen when your mind is strongest, not when it fits your calendar. Save shallow tasks for your valleys. Invest your peaks in work that moves your life forward. And find your why. People connected to purpose access fuel that others cannot. If you cannot answer why your work matters, you have found a leak no tactic can fix. Now here is where energy transforms into legacy. In 2003, British cycling was a joke. One Olympic gold medal in over 100 years. Then Dave Brailsford took over and implemented something he called the aggregation of marginal gains. Improve everything by just 1%. Redesign the seats. Test different massage gels. Paint the truck interior white to spot dust. Teach riders how to wash hands to reduce infection. Each improvement was invisible, but stacked together, they created the most dominant cycling program in history. This is the most important truth about success. It is not about massive breakthroughs. It is about tiny advantages, relentlessly accumulated over time. If you improve by 1% every day, at the end of 1 year you are not 100% better. You are 37 times better. The formula is 1.01 raised to the power of 365. Now consider the reverse. Decline by 1% daily, and you approach 0. Same starting point, same time period, radically different destinations. The average person does not notice 1%, so they wait for motivation, for big moves, for transformation moments. And while they wait, the days pass without investment. The legend shows up daily. Not because today changes everything, because today plus yesterday plus tomorrow creates an unstoppable trajectory. Build anchor habits. 2 or 3 non-negotiable daily actions connected to your biggest goals. Specific commitments, not vague intentions. Not I will read more. I will read for 20 minutes before breakfast. Build a morning ritual. The first hour sets the trajectory for the rest. 15 minutes for mind, meditation, reading, intention. 15 minutes for body, movement that elevates your state. 30 minutes for mission, your most important work before the world interrupts. Build an evening closure. 5 minutes reviewing what worked and what did not. 5 minutes preparing tomorrow. When you wake up, the path is already clear. And track your progress. What gets measured gets managed. A simple checkbox for each day. A streak that motivates you to maintain momentum. You will miss days. That is inevitable. The question is what you do next. 1 missed day is a stumble. 2 missed days is a new pattern forming. Guard the day after a miss more carefully than any other. Now let me bring this entire book to its final point. One day you will die. Not someday in the abstract. Actually die. The room will be full. People will speak about your life. What will they say? Will they talk about the promotions you almost got? The business you almost started? The person you almost became? Or will they talk about someone who invested in themselves so relentlessly that they became undeniable? Success is about you, your achievements, your wealth, your status. Significance is about others, your impact, your contribution, what remains after you are gone. Most people spend their lives chasing success and never find significance. They win a game that does not matter while ignoring the one that does. The legacy you leave is not built in a single moment. It is built in the daily investments that compound over years, in the energy you protect, in the systems you maintain, in the person you become through consistent, relentless self-improvement. Everything in this book has led to this. You are your greatest asset. Knowledge pays the best interest. Your mindset determines your ceiling. Your skills multiply your value. Your emotional intelligence amplifies your influence. Your discipline bridges intention and achievement. Your circle shapes your trajectory. Your energy fuels everything else. And your daily system turns it all into compound results. Legends are not born. They are built, day by day, decision by decision, investment by investment. The manifesto has been declared. The path has been revealed. Now the only question is whether you will walk it. Invest in yourself until you become a legend, and leave your mark so deep that time itself cannot erase it.